Hi, hey, hello. Welcome. It's episode 140.
140.
Bizarre-ities.
Uh,
We started this. I started this episode like, I don't know how many times just now. I have such a problem starting the episode. I think mom should start it from now on.
I love to start the episode.
I think that should be your job because I get like, she sits there and looks at
Flustered.
me and I'm like, hey.
Hi. Like, no.
I said, should I start by saying hello?
Yeah.
Oh, I should say it. I should say it.
Say hello. Go on. Say hello.
If anybody gets the reference, that's Christmas Vacation. Anyway, hi, hey, hello. It's episode 140.
From
Bizarre-ities.
Killer Hangover. Oh my gosh. I love Bizarre-ities.
Love it. And I am so excited to share my story. I know mom's really super psyched about sharing hers because she had like firsthand experiences of going to these places on a recent trip. And then we both chose a cocktail.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mine's
You
so
look thrilled.
No, mine's so strong. I'm not going to be able to drink this. I
Mine's
will take
very
a few
strong
sips.
too. Mine's strong too. So warning, this is a hangover episode.
Ay.
Well, before we jump in though, how are you? What's going on? What's new with mom?
Well, I just got rid of all of you guys.
Yeah, we were all there for the 4th of July. And every time I've talked to her since we've left, she's like, I'm cleaning. I'm cleaning. Hey, we're clean. I left it clean. One of the best of my abilities with 4 kids.
No, that's fine. I mean, we had 4 dogs, 4 kids, and a whole bunch of adults. So it was great. It was great, but it's always like takes 2 days to get everything cleaned up afterwards between laundry
I
and
get it. I get it.
So yeah, it's good. Back to rehearsals, and that's good. And yeah, so back to research. I kind of slacked off during 4th of July week. Oh,
Well, and I mean, and you're rehearsing lines, which Alex loved to do with you while he was
I know he
there.
needs to come back because I have got more lines to memorize.
She speaks with a Russian accent, which the boys walked in on her practice running lines with herself in the kitchen one day, and they were like, yeah, why are you talking like that? Yeah, what's
I
wrong?
am now Russian.
It was pretty funny. So yeah, we're all excited for mom's big play.
Oh boy. Oh boy. I'm just kidding. Like, yeah, it's gonna be so much stinking fun.
I'm excited for you.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So how about you? It's hotter than HE
Hades.
double hockey sticks. Is that how you say it?
Yes.
Yeah. It is so hot. I mean, the heat index today is 115.
It's disgusting. It's disgusting outside. Like, even just walking to my garage this morning to get my espresso out of the refrigerator, I was like melting. I'm melting. It was horrible.
Well, I walked the dog and we came home and both of us were like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I've been coming up with a lot of really fun toddler activities for inside. On my way into the office to record today, I tripped over all of my floor is lava balloons. I blew up all of these red and orange balloons and filled the playroom. And they set up their nuggets and jumped from, oh my gosh, they've been playing with that for the last 3 days. The floor is lava, but I'm about to go through and pop all the lava because I have tripped over so many gosh darn balloons in the last couple days.
How do you trip over a balloon?
It like rolls under your feet as you're walking. Mom, there's like 200 balloons out
Can't
there.
you like kick your feet while you're walking?
I try.
Just asking. Then again, it's you. So
doing 3, 4, 5 things at once as I'm walking. Yeah. Must remember to kick my feet as I walk.
there you go. Add one more thing. That's all.
So yeah, that's really been my life, is keeping kids entertained inside. Once the sun goes down, I'm like, go outside, go play some baseball while I get dinner ready, go do whatever outside. So they've been playing with the neighbor kids and getting out once the sun starts to go down. But
I know it's bad. Today is weird. Is it weird there too? It's
yeah,
dark. I mean, it is dark.
well, we were supposed to have storms and then it got pushed off. So now it's hot and humid.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Anyway,
I don't know what's
we have
going
more
on.
to talk about than just the weather, y'all.
The weather.
Those who watch Patreon, we sat down like it was a morning show, and Mom's like, and now with the weather. And that's like all we've talked about this episode.
A talk show. That's right. Because we had our
hope
coffee.
the weather is good with you.
Hey.
Oh, I got my hair done.
I was going to say, you did get a break yesterday. Got to go to the hairdresser.
I had a nice break. I love my stylist. She's one of my really good friends, Joe. We used to do hair together, and now I get treated by her. She's an angel. She's amazing, and we love talking spirits. And gosh darn it, I forget the word right now that she told me I need to start looking into. Channeling. She says I need to start looking into channeling. We were just talking about how we're sensitive to spirits and sensitive to feelings and people even sometimes, and empathic and all that kind of stuff. And it's fun to get your hair done and talk about those kinds of things. It was great. Okay, enough about me, enough about you, enough about the weather. I'm playing with a box opener, an envelope opener here. I don't know why. That's
okay.
Dangerous. Okay. Mom, would you like to begin?
Yes, I would actually.
And they're like Beth, the listeners are like, yes, please start.
As Beth said, we both have a cocktail. So I'm going to introduce mine first and do my thing. And then Bethy is going to introduce hers and go finish the episode with her stuff. So
I am so excited.
Okay. I'm just this drink scares me.
Serious. Okay.
I know this drink literally scares me. Okay, I'm covering Savannah. I recently was able to go there with my husband, and oh my gosh, we are so going. We're taking a girls trip or something, and we are going to Savannah. Yeah. I loved that place. Just loved it. Not only the paranormal part of it, but also all the moss on the trees and the beautiful homes, and I could go on and on. I really could, because it's amazing. It's amazing city.
Love to get on TikTok and follow this lady. It's like morning Savannah walks or Savannah morning, I don't know, something, but she just walks around Savannah. And that's all her TikTok. It's a live of her walking around Savannah, and she tells the history of places, hauntings of places, and just chats about Savannah. And it's just so fascinating to me.
I should have done that while I was there.
She lives there, and she does it daily with her dog, and she just walks around and shares about oh my gosh, it's so cool.
Yeah, it's a wonderful city. But anyway, so I came up with a drink. Well, I didn't come up with it because it is Savannah's drink. So,
of course, it's strong then.
It's called the Chitam Artillery Punch. Okay. And it was made in the 17 to 1800s. Georgia's first colonial artillery military. What? Militia. That's the word.
Good job.
First colonial artillery militia created the Chatham Artillery Punch. Okay. From what else I read is the soldiers just kind of wanted to celebrate one night, a victory or something, and they
Sure.
just dumped whatever was close to them into
Kind of
this
like
punch.
jungle juice.
Yeah. Now
Love it.
I made the single serving, but most of the recipes are punch, big servings, of course. So yeah, I guess they dumped this into this big barrel and just started making it.
Oh
So,
my gosh, it is like jungle juice. That's hilarious. Okay, cool.
all right. What's in it?
So I
And
I
this
bet
is,
the single serving is really strong because if it's usually made for like a punch, that might be a little less strong, maybe.
I don't know. I think the punch is probably pretty darn strong too.
No
Because
matter what. Okay.
okay, so this is a single serving. And it's 1 ounce of bourbon, 1 ounce of cognac, 1 ounce of Jamaican rum. I just used rum. I guess it was Jamaican. I don't know.
You know us, we have our substitutes.
1 ounce of simple syrup, and I used the agave syrup. Sorry. A half an
You
ounce
should
of
be.
lemon juice, 2 ounces of champagne, and 1 pinch of nutmeg. Now I have to say I don't like nutmeg, so I left the nutmeg off.
What does the nutmeg do?
I don't know,
I
but
wonder.
I can't tell you because I don't have it.
Huh.
Shake, strain, rocks, top with bubbly, and then grate nutmeg if you're using it.
I'm curious what the nutmeg would do. I wonder if it takes away like the alcohol aftertaste or something like that.
I don't know, but I think the sparkling takes the bite out of the
Sure.
all the bourbons and stuff.
That would make sense.
So viewers, I'll just be taking little sips. Cheers.
Cheers. That's a punch.
It's a punch. It's good though. I mean, I can't drink too much of this. I'll be just off the rails.
It'll make for a really good time. Don't go fighting any battles after drinking that.
We should drink this together. Woo. And record. That will be a fun episode.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. So that was my drink. I have to have some water. Sorry.
You're advertising this drink so well.
No, it's good if you're sitting around drinking and having
You're
a
either
party,
putting people off or they're very interested.
we got these really cool cups. They look backwards.
We did.
But so we got 2 of them from one of our
gifted.
listeners, Michelle.
Yes.
And
you guys are so great with the gifts and the goodies that we've gotten. Just
yeah,
so nice.
I know.
We have the best hangoveries. No.
No, we decided not to call them that.
All right, Mom, tell us your bizarre stories.
Okay. So as I said, I was able to visit Savannah. And it's absolutely beautiful. Okay, I already said all this, so I'm not going to read it.
Okay. Sounds great.
What I'm going to cover is kind of the darker side of Savannah. Now, a few patron episodes ago, I did cover the 1820 yellow fever epidemic that hit the city. And I talked a lot about the Colonial Park Cemetery. I am not going to cover that in this episode. You have to listen to it on Patreon.
Oh. That was a good episode. That's what got me the idea of doing the buried alive stuff.
Yeah. It was really good. Just kind of a lot of people died of this disease.
It was really good. A lot of people died.
Is that what I said? Oh boy.
That's
no.
what you said.
No, it's sad that a lot of people died. But what was really sad is if you didn't have enough money, you were dumped into a mass grave. So we went to that cemetery and, took some pictures, but I read the plaque and it said 700 people were buried, in these mass graves and stuff. But that's
Jeez.
not factual. The fact is, after the poor
That
grave
plaque
diggers,
is not right.
no, it's not, but there's a reason for it. The poor grave diggers, when the epidemic was over, they had to jump into the graves and count the bodies. So they jumped in there, and the actual number is 666. And since that's, well, not a number anyone wants to write on a plaque,
Not a nice number.
they bumped it up to 700, saying there probably is more than 700 anyway. So we'll
Probably
just
closer to that. We'll round up.
round up to 700. So like I said, I did the patron episode I kind of covered the disease and what it does to the body, and then how the bodies were collected and buried, as well as other going-ons in the Colonial Park Cemetery. So, but this episode, I'm going to cover other places in Savannah that we actually visited. The city is considered as the most haunted in America, even by the American Paranormal Institute of Psychology. Savannah is remember that word? Necropolis.
Oh, yep.
It's a necropolis, and that it is built over the dead.
Those from Patreon know why I'm laughing.
So you are literally
know what that meant.
Well, it's not a word that we usually use in our language. I mean, we don't go around talking about necropolises. So when walking around Savannah, you are literally walking on unknown graves. So according to we went on the Beyond Good and Evil Ghost Tour, and our guide was Nikki. And according to her, the uneven sidewalks and stuff is due to the graves underneath, the bodies settling and doing whatever bodies do underneath you when you're walking on them.
Oh my gosh. Well, and then some of the trees there are so old. So I'm sure the roots take a lot of pressure.
Hey, don't take away from the dead bodies.
Oh, sorry. Not to be scientifical or anything.
Scientifical?
Because I'm so smart.
Anyway, when you are in Savannah, that's something you have to do, is go on a ghost tour. It's like one of the things. Visit Savannah, go on a ghost tour.
Yeah.
And there are so many every night. It's kind of
eat
funny.
Food, because their food is delicious.
Well, you have to eat food anyway, but
like really eat food. Like
you have to go on a ghost tour. It's just a thing there.
There's so many there. Yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah. At night, you just see hundreds of people walking around.
All these groups
bunched up in groups. It's kind of funny.
It's awesome.
And I think I mentioned too in the Patreon episode that construction workers, even to this day, will dig up bodies. So, I mean, there's just so many bodies underneath this city. When they dig them up, I guess they have to call the police. They have to do a criminal investigation. So they have to tape everything off. And even though, have a forensic pathologist or whatever come down, take the body and go, so this happens even to this day. Had I known that before, I would have stopped at a construction site and asked them. I seriously would have. I don't care.
I can see Mom there with her little business cards that she hands out of Killer Hangover everywhere, talking to the construction crew. Hi, I have a podcast. Here's my card. Have you found a body?
I so would.
I know you would have.
At every restaurant we went to, I left my card on the table.
My mother goes through so many business cards. It is the cutest thing. Yeah.
I'm proud. Oh. All right. I did take some pictures, and I'm going to post that on our website. for this episode. So the first place I'm going to cover is the Mercer Williams house. I'm sure a lot of people have heard about this place. It's a beautiful home that dates back to 1860 when it was constructed for General Hugh W. Mercer, who happened to be the great-grandfather of songwriter Johnny Mercer back in the day. Its construction was interrupted by the Civil War, and the house was finished in 1868. Mercer never lived in it. It was sold to a John Wilder. And in 1969, James, or as most people call him, Jim Williams, bought the vacant building and spent the next 2 years restoring the old home. He was an antique collector, had amazing antiques in his house. And anyway, if that name, Jim Williams, rings a bell, it may be from the book, the 1994 novel Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, which was written by John Burrent. There's also the 1997 movie of the same name with John Cusack and Kevin Spacey. May I suggest the book?
Okay.
I was not impressed with the movie, but there you go. The home itself has seen at least 3 deaths. 11-year-old Tommy Downs, who in 1969 went to the abandoned home, and it's said that he was like chasing birds or looking for pigeons or something like that. Anyway, he broke into the home. He went up to a top balcony, and somehow or another he fell. When he fell off the balcony, there's these iron rock gate that goes around it, and they have these really sharp spikes on the very top of it, and he fell. His head was impaled by a spike. So
you really didn't need to share that detail. You could have just said he fell.
No, I do have to share it, because
is this ghost walking around with like a spike in his head?
No.
Okay.
No, but the spike has never been replaced. So you can go, I mean, we were on that side of the house and there was one missing spike. Yeah. So some say he was pushed, of course, or thrown, but that's just speculation. So that's little Tommy. Then in 1981, Danny Hansford was shot and killed by Jim Williams. Now, the book and the movie, I mean, this is a true story that happened, and the book and the movie just kind of evolve around this true story.
Okay.
So Danny was shot by Jim, and then Jim himself died of heart failure at the age of 59 in 1990, crumbling to his death in the same room Hartford had died in. The house is now owned by William's sister, Dorothy Kingery. She does not allow tours in the house, but of course, all the tours go to this house because it's so well known from the book and everything. And Williams was a huge figure in Savannah.
Can you imagine just groups of people walking to your house and taking pictures of your house on a daily basis?
I know. It'd be so weird.
It'd be weird.
Just so weird. So paranormal events at the house are many. Tommy's spirit. Now, this is why I had to include the fence.
The impalement. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Because it's kind of a residual. So people have seen him falling over and over and over again, getting spiked.
That's horrible.
That would be, I mean, why? Why? So it's just residual energy, I guess, doing it over and over.
Well, that's just so much energy that was left behind, I would assume. It's just so much.
Little 11-year-old boy.
Ugh.
Yeah. Staff and visitors have reported seeing Williams walking up and down the hallway of the house, as well as sightings of Hansford, so Danny, in the hallways. The two spirits seem to be just stuck in the house. They pass each other in the hallways, I guess. and don't see each other. They don't know that the other one is there.
Well, didn't
So it's
one
just,
of them kill the other?
yeah, Williams killed Danny.
Yeah. So how
So they're just
bizarre.
kind of passing
How
each other.
bizarre. How bizarre.
I
Bizarre.
know.
That's
They just
weird.
continuously pass each other in the hallway.
I
think it's
wonder if
kind
they're
of,
not intelligent. They're
it's
just
kind,
residual again. That's weird.
it's kind of funny, I think.
It is. Or they're
And
just they are intelligent and they're just ignoring each other. Just
I
but
think
they're
they're
all
just
stuck in this house.
they're oblivious, just kind of, I mean, I've never heard of spirits just walking in the hallways passing each other. They're either in a room or whatever. And they don't seem to be in the room that both died in.
That's weird.
I
That's
think
bizarre.
so. In
Every
life,
time Beth says bizarre, you're supposed to be taking a drink. That's a fun game.
fun game. In life, Jim
Of
Williams
that punch
threw.
that mom is making.
No,
It's very strong. Okay. Sorry, I keep cutting you off.
I know you do. In life, Williams threw loud, lavish parties. Now there are reports from neighbors complaining of loud music, laughing, voices coming from the Mercer Williams house late into the night. But then when the police show up, all is quiet.
That poor Dorothy lady that's living there. She's not getting any rest because there's all these parties going on around her.
I actually don't know if she lives there.
Oh.
She might. That's a
She
good
can't
question.
because there's so many parties.
That's a good question. I don't know if she lives there. Some say that they're when they take pictures and then look at them later, there's faces in the pictures. So some recognize a little boy's face, others recognize man's face. Unfortunately, I did not capture any faces. I took a lot of pictures. window.
And then she put her card in the gate and she left.
I did not. Gave it to my tour guide.
Can I just tell a side story super fast?
Yeah,
I went on a
super
ghost
fast.
tour. Super fast. I went on this ghost tour in Chicago with my sister and her fiance and Alex. And I don't know how we got on. I was talking to the tour guide about something, one of the ghost stories that she's talking about. And she was like, yeah, I said, yeah, I have a podcast and we talk about this kind of stuff. And she literally looked at me and she goes, yeah, I hate podcasts. The four of us were just looking at her like, wait, did you just say that? Like, that's so weird. And if I were on my feet, I would have been like, I hate ghost tours. Like, I don't. Anyway, I just always think about that now with
and now
tour
you're
guides.
scared. Now you're scared to give your card out. No
Now,
wonder
I have
you've been
piles of cards at home.
You've been
I just haven't
traumatized. No one has ever been rude to me. They always are excited. Thank you.
I hate podcasts. It's like, wow, that's so rude.
You are a beach.
All right, sorry. Go back
No
to
tip for you.
No, I didn't tip her. I thought that was really rude. I didn't tip her, but Alex tipped her. Anyway, go on.
Okay. The next house is the Sorrel Weed House, which we did visit. Have you heard of it?
I feel like I have.
Okay. We did visit it on the ghost tour. Supposedly, this is the most haunted house in Savannah. The history, I know where you heard of it.
Okay.
The history of this house is quite disturbing. The house was built in 1840 by shipping merchant Francis Sorrel, who was born on his father's sugarcane plantation in Saint Dominique, which is now Haiti. When he was 5, the Haitian Revolution evolved and the revolting slaves burned down the plantation. One of the slaves took Francis, who was half Haitian and half French, under his wing. I only mention this because even though the slave showed this little boy tremendous kindness and saved his life, Francis still grew up to be a very wealthy merchant who bought and sold slaves, treating them horribly along
What
the
an
way.
ass. Sorry.
The Sorrel family lived in the house for 2 decades. Then it was sold to Henry Weed in 1859. The house remained in the Weed family until 1914. It lay abandoned until 1940, when the Society for the Preservation of Savannah Landmarks took it over. And it was finally in 1954 declared a state landmark. So that's kind of the history of the Sorrel Weed House. Now, I guess in Savannah, maybe in the South even, the builder of the house is like Mercer Williams, the builder of the house, and then the person who next bought it, their names are combined. So that's why most of the houses have 2 names with
Multiple
them.
names. Yeah.
Sorrel's first wife, Lucinda, died of yellow fever in 1827. And 2 years later, Frances married her sister, Matilda.
Keep it in the family.
Why bother looking for a wife? There's one sitting here. Let's just grab her.
Times are weird back then.
Records show that Matilda committed suicide in 1859 by throwing herself to her death from the 2nd or 3rd story window of the house.
Jeez.
As window or balcony of the house. Yeah. Her suicide could have been because of ongoing depression. One of her relatives said that they had gotten letters from her and she was increasingly more and more depressed. Or what the story mostly covers is that she walked in on her husband and a slave girl named Molly having sex in the slave quarters. And she was so distraught about this because, 1, he's having an affair. 2, it's a slave girl. So she killed herself. And then, weirdly enough, 2 weeks later, Molly was found in her slave quarter bedroom, hung, and she was dead. Now, yeah. Question is, did she really hang herself? Or was she murdered? Maybe to keep the affair a secret so as not to ruin Sorrel's reputation. I don't know. There was also a weird rumor going around at the time that Matilda's death was caused by voodoo, the workings of Molly, who must have seduced Frances. I mean, why else would Frances have a relationship with an African American slave? What's more likely is that Frances raped the slave, the female
Poor
slaves.
Molly was a victim.
Yeah, one of which, poor Molly, was one of those. With the tragic history of the house, it's very conceivable that there are spirits haunting the home, of course. And to add to the hauntings, it is said that in 1779, the second most bloodiest battle of the Revolutionary War was fought on the land that the Sorrel Weed House sits on. And that 1,000 British soldiers, their bodies were buried and the house built over their mass grave.
Ugh.
Oh, in the late 1990s, bones of soldiers were dug up when a courtyard was built between the house and the slave quarters. Nikki, the guide, told us that Ghost Adventures had visited the home. And that's where I'm sure you've heard of it.
I think so.
So, of course, Bettina had to run to the Discovery Channel and find...
She ran.
I ran. No, I don't run anymore. So I had to watch the episode. Now, as we have said before, when you're looking up Ghost Adventures, the episodes, you can't...
They're never right
anywhere. This is episode 11 or season 11, episode 1, or this... There's so many glitches in this. But on Discovery, where I watched it, it is in fact season 11, episode 10.
On Discovery Plus.
On Discovery Plus. Okay. Yeah. People that Zach interviewed said that visitors had been scratched, hair had been pulled, people became dizzy in certain areas of the house, especially in the slave quarters. Zach and Aaron both got dizzy at the same time. in the
No.
same area. Yes. Zach was on top of the stairs and Aaron was on the bottom of the stairs, and both got zapped at the same time.
Zapped.
Yeah. There's a shadow man in the basement of the house that has been seen a number of times. So, these shadow men, you kind of catch them from the sides, a lot of the time.
Like in your peripheral.
Yeah. This guy actually kind of lounges against doorposts. There's a couch in the basement, and he's been known to sit on the couch, especially when somebody else is sitting there, and it's always on the right side of the couch.
That's weird.
The person can feel the couch. You can feel the couch moving a little bit when somebody joins you. They can feel that, and other people actually see this shadow man sitting there.
That's scary.
I'm just thinking of this guy.
But I probably would not be sitting on a couch in a haunted basement.
This guy just sitting, casually sitting down with his arm on the armrest, crossing his legs, just
God.
That's what I'm picturing. There have been recordings of voices and screams, as well as a lot of orbs in the house. Nikki, the tour guide, told us that people on her past tours had snapped pictures of the outside of the house only to find a female face glaring at them from the window. This is thought to have been Matilda. Now, if you have seen pictures of Matilda, perhaps I will post one, because again, snap, snap, snap. No Matilda in my pictures, but
gosh darn it.
Anyway.
I thought you were about to share that you got one.
Oh, I would be elated if I got one. No, I never got anything. So she's very white, of course. I mean, her skin is very white. She has dark hair, and her eyes are kind of little, and they're very dark. So they're very piercing. Even like this painting of her is just disturbing, because she's like looking into your soul. Anyway, to have a picture, her face looking out at you. There are some tours that actually go into the house. This was not one of them. I would like to do one of them because the house is really haunted. There's some really cool evidence from, on YouTube and stuff, from tours that have been taken inside the house. And Matilda seems to really not want people in her house.
And Matilda was the first wife?
Second.
The second wife.
Not the one that died of yellow fever, but the one that killed herself.
Committed suicide.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah. Ghost Adventures.
Like she's mad that the secret of her husband and everything that happened got out. It's like, just stay out of my house.
I don't think. Yeah, she just doesn't want people in her house.
Yeah.
You're getting the rugs dirty. Ghost Adventures.
That's gonna be me. Take your damn shoes
off. That was probably really loud. Sorry. Ghost Adventures did pick up some things, though. A female voice, very distinctly, said hello. It was a response.
She should start our podcast.
Hello. I'm gonna do that.
She knows what to say.
Zach yelled. And then there were really distinct footsteps. Zach was upstairs and he was sitting in a chair, and you could. Some of this stuff is like, those don't sound like footsteps. This was so distinct footsteps coming towards him. Ooh. It was crazy. That was really cool.
I have not watched Ghost Adventures in so long, and they have new episodes out.
They do.
And we've been requested by a few Patreon members
to watch it together. So we've got to watch a new one.
We need to do that on Patreon
together.
Again.
That's so much fun. It's so much fun. Okay, the team really did pick up some cool spiritual evidence, voices. Their cameras died. The battery was still full. They could see the batteries full, but the camera was off. They did pick up some really cool stuff. And by the way, I don't know why Zach, through the whole episode, inside the house, was wearing his sunglasses.
Oh, well, he's Joe Cool.
Maybe his eyes hurt. Maybe, I don't know, but he's standing in this beautiful house and he's wearing his cool shades. Just questioning.
He's proud of his shades, Mom. He's proud of his sunglasses.
Okay, I know I poke fun at Ghost Adventures, but honestly, I love watching them because it's just so funny.
You think they're funny? We should do a paranormal investigation. I bet we would
Oh
be
my
very
gosh.
entertaining. Mom would be handing out her cards to all the spirits. It was so nice to speak with you. Here's my card. If
It
you
was
want
so
to
nice.
follow up on the episode.
So nice. Now here's some holy water. All right. Tom and I visited a lot of places while in Savannah. Poor guy. I dragged him. I looked
He's
at the map.
really into ghosts.
I never ever look at maps. It's just not my thing. But I looked at this
gosh.
one and I did some research and I'm circling all these places where it's supposedly haunted. And I didn't tell Tom any of it. I just said, "Oh, here's some cool places we need to go to." He probably knew. But anyway, I drug him all over town. Our tour stopped outside of many homes and I took a lot of pictures, but as I said before, didn't get any ghostly apparitions.
Or so you think. Maybe viewers, maybe listeners will look at them and see, like, oh, this looks a little off, though. You never know.
Perhaps. I mean, I am a skeptic.
Mhm.
So, maybe it just didn't pop out at me. I don't know. However, when we stood in Calhoun Square, which by the way is no longer Calhoun Square.
Correct.
They took the name in November of 2022.
Yeah, I was
They
gonna say, it
took
was
the name.
recently.
They took the name off of the square. It is still unnamed, because a slave owner it's Calhoun was a slave
Correct.
owner, and he didn't really have anything to do with Savannah. So
Oh.
it's like, why is this guy here? So I think they took his statue down, but for sure they took his name off of the square. And to top that off, well, first I'm going to tell you how I felt, and then I don't know what happened, but I felt, so the tour guide was talking, we're in the middle of the square, and I just got this really super heavy feeling. Almost like I did in that stupid room in the tunnel. But anyway, I just got this like oppressed, heavy feeling. And then I literally got nauseous to my stomach and I got really lightheaded. And I said, "Tom, I've got to get out of here." And just about the same time, she said that in Calhoun Square, there's either one or a couple of mass graves where slaves were buried.
Correct. I knew the
And
history of that place.
I did not know that beforehand, but I was just like, I have got to get out of this. Luckily, we turned around and left shortly after that, because I don't know if I would have been able to not throw up. I mean, it was just really that bad. And then it was, I don't know, 3 minutes or so after leaving the square, 3 to 5 minutes, I felt fine. Absolutely fine. It was just weird. That was just
there was
really
like
strange.
Multiple slave what you just said the word, like
mass
the mass
graves?
burial. And they did move some of them to a slave cemetery. But they didn't get all of them, from what I understand. And they just built the park and the square over it. And those are still people. Like, it's that side of history.
I'll tell you, that was
so
a really
upsetting.
Yeah. That was a really like weird feeling. I have to say, that was strange. Okay. As I said, we visited many places, but for time's sake, I'm not going to cover every place. Because again, I didn't catch pictures. We did go to the pirate house. Is that what it's called? The pirate house? And it's supposed to be haunted too.
It's supposed to be really haunted. We went there for dinner when we were there. And granted, we took the kids. And you said you asked your server, right?
Mhm,
If the place is
mhm.
haunted, and your server said no.
She said that other servers have said it was, but she has not witnessed anything personally, but she's really excited to do so.
Yeah, our server, we were out the door, and so Alex is chasing. Well, he had maybe we had 3 kids at the time. I don't remember, 2 or 3. He's chasing the kids out the door, and I was like, I have to ask our server, and so I asked him. I said, "Is this place haunted?" And he's like, "Yes." That's all. He just is like, "Yes." I was
That was
like,
it.
I just want to sit and chat with you. I was on my way out the door. But the whole restaurant's really cool. I mean, any of those
It
places
is.
are so cool, but they've really tried to keep it old looking, I guess. But it's where all the pirates and or sailors would come and get a have a pint.
Yeah, and they have that part of the restaurant is still actually where, it I mean, the walls and everything are still actually there
It's
where the
so
pirates
cool.
used to come. It is
You'd think that there's some spirits there for sure then.
yeah, again, I'm going through taking pictures. Totally fail, man. I failed.
Awesome.
Um, there is one place more that I'd like to cover. And that is the Grave Face Museum. This place was so stinking cool. Tom left me there and went to eat lunch. This was not someplace that he
Left you there.
well, actually, I told him just go eat lunch because this is not
He
anything up
shooed
your
you out of the
alley.
car. Go, go.
No, we
Shoot,
walked
shoot.
everywhere. There was no car, but I'm like, go eat lunch. Just go eat lunch. Enjoy yourself. Have a drink. I don't care. But just,
Go
I
have a
wanted to
pint.
go. I wanted to go through the museum at my leisure, and and I know he would have complained because it wasn't really his thing at all. And I say that because this museum is so just so cool. They had all kind of curiosities in it. I'll post pictures of 2 shrunken heads that I mean actual shrunken heads that were there. There's also a Haitian voodoo, which is I think another word for voodoo. There's a Haitian voodoo skull that I took a picture of with the eyes sewn shut and stuff. It was just, and then of course you have the, four-legged, yeah,
Oh,
five-legged calf, and the calf with 2
a
heads, and
four-legged calf. Now that's
it
something
was
I'd want to
so
see.
weird.
So bizarre.
Then they had a whole room from Levine, the guy who's kind of started the satanic
Mm-hmm.
church thing. So they had a whole room covering that, which was interesting to me. And then you walked into kind of a hallway. Well, it was just rooms. It's like a house.
Right.
And so there were rooms that you kind of walked through. And then there was a cabinet, a glass cabinet, and it was locked, and it was full of haunted dolls. And it's just like, okay, whatever. But the more I stood there, the more I'm
Mm-mm.
like,
Ooh,
uh,
I just got chicken bumps.
it was
Ugh.
it was a weird feeling. I'm like, okay, I'm out of here. But before I left that area, I thought, oh, this would be cool for our listeners to see. So I'm snapping pictures of this cabinet. And then I took behind me was some kind of vampire stuff. So I took pictures of that. And then I moved on, and they have like this arcade place that has pinballs, that all haunted pinball machines. I didn't do that.
What an what an odd collection.
And then they have
Oh my
these like,
gosh.
people that used to be in the circus, that, the bearded lady and all that other
Yeah.
stuff. They have a section on that. Um, so anyway, I took pictures of everything. Upstairs, they have true crime stuff. I mean, they have
Right.
clothes, they have
Oh.
drawings that the killers drew while in prison. They have just all this very cool stuff, birth certificates, the warrant to search houses, just all this really
Wow.
cool stuff. And I did take pictures of that. And when we cover those people, I will post those pictures.
Yeah, you took a picture of something we had already covered. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah,
Sent it to me.
and you posted
Well,
that.
it was the San Francisco witch killers.
Exactly. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And you posted that. But I have to say here that like I said, I thought the dolls were really scary, creepy, and I want to take a picture of them. I told Beth yesterday, I was like, I want to post this stuff, but they're not in my pictures. They're not in any of the collection of my pictures. They just did not turn out.
They're not on your phone anymore.
No, I know that I took 4 or 5 pictures of these dolls.
Knowing you, probably a little more than that.
Then I turned around and I know I did some vampire picturing too, but the vampire pictures,
picturing.
the vampire pictures aren't there either. It's like everything that I took in this space that I was in.
I know. That's when you told me that, I was like, that's kind of weird.
They're gone. They're not there. Very weird. And you know what? It's strange. I did not realize that until I started writing this up. And it was like, oh, cool. I'm going to post the pictures of the dolls. And then I realized that they weren't there.
You should go into your deleted photos album on your phone and see if they're there.
Oh, there's a deleted album?
Mm-hmm.
I did know that.
It keeps the photos there for like, I don't know, a couple weeks. Just check.
Okay.
I would just be curious.
Yeah. Okay, so for those of you that are interested in history, in the paranormal, or just wanting to visit a beautiful city, I highly, highly recommend Savannah.
This is not an ad, even though she just made it sound like one.
The city
we are not sponsored by the city of Savannah.
No, but they could. That would be so cool. The city built on the dead. They could sponsor our trip there. And if they're, if you're into all this kind of, curiosities and stuff, you've got to visit the Grave Face Museum. And they do allow you to take pictures. They said, please take pictures. And
they do, but they might not be saved in your phone.
But they might not turn out. Just saying. That's why they're so gracious about take pictures, go ahead, because they know they're not going to turn out.
Cute.
Oh, okay. So there you go, Savannah. And I'm taking a drink of this punch thing.
Alrighty. I am like so excited for this. I just got really
What's your
loud
drink?
for those listening. I'm sorry. I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
I want to know.
I am so excited. Like I can't even. Okay. I am having, it's called the Mongoose. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a shot.
Oh.
So that's why I said mine's strong too, because it's just a shot.
It's just a shot.
It's just a shot. But it is a ½ ounce of Crown Royal, a ½ ounce of peach schnapps, and a ½ ounce of sweet and sour mix. You put it in with ice in a shaker, shake it up, and strain it into a nice shot glass.
That sounds really good, actually.
Yeah, I've only just sipped a little of it. These are killer hangover shot glasses. That's another story in its own time. That's a true crime story I'll have to cover sometime, about how I got conned into supporting this person to make us merch.
But we do have them. If you do have them, if you want some.
There are a few that turned out really good. So if you are interested, let me know. Yeah, Mom's like, I have this great company. There's a few great companies we can look into. And I'm like, well, I like to shop small. I like to support local vendors. And that did not work out this time. Usually that works out great. I feel good about myself after.
Yes.
But it did not look great. Let's just say that. The sweatshirts look like my 2-year-old made them. And a lot of the stemless wine glasses, the picture is just on the top, just on the lip here. So I don't know. We'll figure out something to do with them.
Yeah, they're sitting in my office right now, right?
I know. I have a box here too. Like I just
Ugh.
Anyway. We got conned, Mom. We got conned. 1/2 ounce Crown Royal, 1/2 ounce peach schnapps, and a 1/2 ounce of sweet and sour mix. Cheers.
Cheers.
I feel like I need like a flashlight. Turn the lights off. The spooky tale. My story today takes us to the Isle of Man. It sounds like a
MAN.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's an island. It sounds like a Twilight Zone place for some reason to me. I don't know why.
Okay. I don't
Maybe
know
they
why
did a Twilight
either.
episode on the Isle of Man. This is the Isle of Man. There are lots of folklore and legend that surround this island. I mean, the island was created by a man named Finn McCool. He was in search of a Scottish giant. He was hunting the Scottish giant, and he chased this giant. He didn't want the giant to escape and swim across the sea, so he scooped up some land. He scooped up some clay and rock and he threw it to block the giant from swimming in the sea. And he overshot his throw. He's stronger than he thought. And it landed in the Irish Sea, thus creating the Isle of Man.
Oh.
There is the Begain, which is a malevolent spirit that takes the form of an ogre. He ripped the roof off of St. Trinian's Church.
Huh?
There is a water-dwelling shape-shifter that haunts the Isle of Man called Galston. There are evil fairies on the Isle of Man. People still to this day will have wooden crosses on their door to protect them from these evil fairies. There's the Maradu, which is a black ghost dog that wanders the corridors of Peel Castle.
Oh, that's our first ghost dog.
Yeah, his name is Maradu.
Not Marmaduke, but Marmaduke.
And not Scooby-Doo. Jimmy Squarefoot.
Oh.
He is a very peaceful creature with a human body, a pig's head, and boar's tusks.
And a square foot.
I wonder. But the story I'm going to share with you today from the Isle of Man and is one that is not necessarily a folklore or a legend. It was talked about a lot in the tabloids and the press at the time. Paranormal investigator Harry Price even went to investigate this. Perhaps it's paranormal. Perhaps it's real. But for sure, it's bizarre.
Ooh. Okay, good intro.
Thank you. Once upon a time, there was a man named James and a woman named Margaret. They were the Irvings, and they moved to the Isle of Man in 1916. They moved to a 70-acre farmstead, Dorlish, at Cashin's Gap. They worked as sheep farmers. The two had a baby girl 2 years after moving to their very isolated farm. They were very isolated. I have that here again in my notes, so I'm going to repeat it. They were very isolated. Life out there was isolated.
Oh my gosh. Can you stress anything more?
Life out there was isolated. It was normal. They would wake up early, tend their farm, their sheep all day, come home, ate dinner, went to bed early to get up and do it all over the next day.
Again.
All normal until September of 1931, when they started hearing strange noises in the wood paneling of the wall separating James and Margaret's room and their 13-year-old, she was 13, Vori's room. So the wall paneling there, they started hearing these like scratching noises between their rooms.
Okay.
So
Was it
I mean, honestly,
isolated? Was it isolated to that panel?
your joke would have been funnier if you could have gotten it out right, Mom. Honestly, they weren't concerned with the noises at first. They thought it was just, pitter patter, scratching. They thought maybe a mouse had made its home
Mice,
there. I mean, they're out on a farm, and this is 1916.
Well,
Not that that makes mice more common. I don't know why I just
1930, wasn't it 1930 now?
No. They moved there in 1916, and this is 13 years later.
Okay.
So 1929. Did I do that math right?
Not 1930.
Wow. That shot went straight to the noggin. No, Mom, it's 1929. It's not 1930 yet. We're in 1929. Rawr. Okay. So they're not concerned with the noises. At first, they think it's just a mouse. But it's very consistent, and it's like every single night. And then hissing starts.
Ew.
And it's like this pitter patter that's like growing louder, and it's a rodent's hissing, and it's just happening every single night.
What does James rodent hissing sound like?
I don't know. I don't want to know.
Okay.
James gets fed up and he starts to lay traps, but this only seems to upset whatever is in the wall because it grows louder and louder.
Oh.
He got so fed up that James would sit up at night with a loaded gun, just waiting for this. I mean, like, this creature has to come out at some point.
Oh, he's not going to shoot the wall.
I mean, he's just waiting with a loaded gun, just waiting to kill whatever is in this wall. Like, it's just getting louder and louder. And then, after a month of the loud noises in the wall, he saw the creature that was making the noise. It was almost like a squirrel, but bigger. Maybe a ferret or a weasel kind of looking thing. It was about 9 inches long, yellow fur. The tail was bushy with black specks in it. It was a very thin creature, and it moved very quickly, so James could not catch or even shoot it. Another month goes by, and James had really had it. He soaks a piece of bread in poison and lays it at the top of the staircase to kill the rodent. That night, there are horrible screams coming from inside the wall.
Oh, no.
Like the animal was in pain.
Yeah.
The horrendous screaming goes on for 20 minutes and then silence. The family slept in absolute peace that night, believing the animal was finally dead. The next morning, Vori, the daughter, discovers the poison-soaked bread still sitting at the top of the stairs, untouched. Had the animal faked a poisoning? Was it that intelligent? That night, the scraping and loud noises in the walls continued. Now, by the month of December in 1929, the hissing and noises continued into the daytime. And they changed. They changed almost human sounding. James described it as a human voice with a very high pitched, almost like 2 octaves higher than a human speaking. And it was almost like baby slurring. Like it was very human like, mumbling, and it started mimicking what the family was saying. It started to mimic sayings and phrases. Over the next few months, James worked with the creature. He worked with the creature from inside the walls and taught it phrases and words. The creature, almost like a parrot, would repeat things back to James. James taught the creature nursery rhymes and songs at first to get like a rhythmic to it, just like you do a child. I taught this thing. So at this point, the family believes this is a supernatural being, why they're playing with it and teaching it things, I don't know. Before long, the creature inside the wall starts having conversations with the Irving family.
Ew.
The creature told the family he was a mongoose and his name was Jeff.
Oh, Jeff the Mongoose, right.
Seriously, this is the mongoose shot.
Got it.
Da, 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 da. Thank you. Quote, I was born. Oh, a deer just jumped my fence
Into your yard?
into my yard and scared the bejesus out of me just now. Thought it was a person.
Frolicking over your fence.
That really scared me. Okay, let me take a moment, take a beat. How do you pronounce? Is it Delhi, India? Delhi, India? Dahlia? Delhi? Dehli. Quote, I was born in India.
Delhi. Isn't it Delhi?
Delhi, I think so.
Delhi.
On June 7th, 1852. I have been shot at by Indians. I am a marsh mongoose. This is what he told the family. He had just learned to speak, not even a month prior, but
Oh, wow.
this is what he's telling them. Being that mongoose are not a native animal on the Isle of Man, Jeff explained that he made the trek from India to Egypt by boat, and he was a stowaway, which a lot of rodents are. Quote, I was brought to England from Egypt by a man named Holland. When I was in India, I lived with a tall man who wore a green turban on his head. Then I lived with a deformed man, a hunchback. Unquote. Jeff is very intelligent, I would say.
I guess he learned all this in a month. He learned how to speak. But he
Yeah.
speaks many languages.
How? But yeah. Considering 2 months ago he was babbling like a baby, and now he is telling them about a hunchback he lived with. Can we get Finn down here, my 2-year-old? Let's start getting words going, because this nonverbal whining thing is driving me crazy. Jeff the mongoose, please come help me. This morning we sat for 5 minutes arguing what he wanted for breakfast. I had no idea. Anyway, where was I? Oh, he made it then to the Isle of Man, where he had made it his home. Okay. The mongoose
Oh
went
no,
from.
I'm purple.
Oh no.
This weirdly happens. I don't know why.
Did we continue with it purple or stop
Yeah,
it?
just continue. Just continue.
We're going to continue with you purple. Okay.
Yeah, just go. So weird.
It's really distracting, but okay. So is this a real mongoose? The Irvings thought so. At this point, they're not thinking paranormal anymore. They really think that this is a talking rodent at their house.
But they've not seen. I mean,
They'd
they're
seen
talking.
him.
So when
Yep.
he's talking to them, is it through the wall or is it
Not all the time, I guess.
just
I don't
sitting on
know. This was not made clear, but they know what he looks like. He's yellow with polka dotted like tail, bushy tail. But if this is a real mongoose, that would mean he is 80 years old. Because remember, he was born in 1852. So he's 80, which is, I'm pretty sure, not the lifetime of a mongoose. He's very intelligent. Like I said, I mean, wow. But like, what is this? Is this like a ghost or something paranormal pretending to be a mongoose? Why a mongoose? But they really did think this was a real mongoose. In fact, he told the family, quote, if you knew what I know, you'd know a hell of a lot. Unquote.
That is intense, man.
And that mongoose became quite a threat to the family. He
A
became
threat?
very violent. Yeah. He became very obsessed with Vori, the daughter in particular.
Oh.
He followed her everywhere, in the house, on the farm, and even into town to school. James and Margaret became very concerned with this. Uh, but the mongoose said, quote, I am not evil. I could be if I wanted. I
Ah.
don't know what damage or harm I could do. Though you don't know what damage or harm I could do if I were roused. I could kill you all, but I
Oh,
won't.
I won't.
Unquote.
I won't today.
Let's change the purple. This is
I
distracting.
don't know. I know. I don't know.
All right. I had mom change from the purple because it was very distracting. On with my story. Quote, I know who I am, but I shan't tell you. I am a freak. I have hands. I have hands and I have feet. And if you saw me, you'd faint. You'd be petrified, mummified, turned into stone, or a pillar of salt.
Oh, good
Unquote.
Lord. Jeez, Louise.
James and Margaret decided to move Rory into their room to sleep at night. This angered the mongoose. Quote, I'll follow her wherever you move her. It yelled at them. I am a ghost in the form of a weasel, and I shall haunt you with weird noises and clanking chains.
Oh, okay.
But
Marley. It's
it did
Marley the
more
ghost.
it did, no, it's Jeff. It's Jeff.
Oh, okay.
It did more than that though. The mongoose started throwing stones and rocks at James and Margaret, keeping them up all hours of the night with loud bangs and scary sounds.
This
At
totally
one
sounds
point,
like a little toddler.
at one a horrible toddler. Jeez. At one point, if you're heard of sleep training, I mean, come on now. At one point, it screamed at them, quote, I'll split the atom. I am the fifth dimension. I am the eighth wonder of the world. Unquote. Again, what a freaking smart mongoose. I mean, like,
I think he's a little egotistical, but
wow. Quote, if you are kind to me, I will bring you good luck. If you are not kind, I shall kill all your poultry. I can get them wherever you put them.
oh.
And that's their way of living. They're farmers. So they all start living nicely together.
Oh,
And
okay.
James, Margaret, and Vori, they live with their little pet spirit mongoose. I don't know what this thing is. Jeff. He would hunt rabbits for the family, and he would like leave them on their front doorstep, and they would so they could cook them and have dinner and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
And with that, the family would share their dinner or their meals with Jeff. They would make a plate for Jeff at every meal. They just kind of started to live at peace with this mongoose spirit thing.
Okay.
Now Jeff started leaving the farm on his own. He started venturing out. He wouldn't just hang out at the farm. And he would sneak into other people's houses, and he would come home and share about his experiences and his excursions with the family at night, some nice pillow talk. Yeah.
Hey, did you know what's happening down the road?
No, it's exactly what he would do. He would kind of gossip. And then he also said, quote, I have been to nicer homes than this. Carpets, piano, satin covers on polished tables. I'm going back there. Unquote.
Okay, go.
But he claimed that the farmhouse was his home.
Home.
And, quote, it suits me, unquote. So James, he's a bit of a chatterbox. And he starts kind of talking about this spirit mongoose living in his walls. Why, I have no idea, but he did. And honestly, it's not just his word, though. Jeff is seen by townspeople as well.
Well, he has to. He follows the girl to school. He has to be seen.
There was a teenager. His name was Will. He saw a small animal roaming around his house. Yellow, fluffed up tail with black speckles. And there's not a lot of weasels in the Isle of Man, so it was kind of like a what the heck is in my house? Can't you just
Right.
picture this Jeff walking by eating a sandwich? He just like helps himself. I'm just picturing that. I don't
Walking
know
on
why.
his
Yeah,
back
his
legs.
back legs just like eating a sandwich. Like, what up, Will? Thanks for the sandwich. All right. Anyway, a post office worker named John Moore. He goes to the house obviously to deliver mail, and the Irvings invited him inside one day, and for tea or snack or whatever out of the heat. I don't know. And while he's there, though, he hears thumping noises in the wall as they're all sitting there. And then he hears a high pitched voice shout out, quote, "Put the bloody gramophone on," unquote. I mean, you're hosting somebody. Put the bloody music on. What is wrong with you people?
And the family's just sitting there, just drinking their tea.
Oh, I guess Jeff is right. We should put on some music.
I'm so sorry.
So you have these believers of Jeff, these people that have seen Jeff, but you also have the people that are questioning all of this, like they're isolated on a farm. Is this some story that they made up? There's the isolated word again. Is this just something that they made up? Vori doesn't have a lot of friends. She's about 17 years old at this time, and her only friends at this point are her mom, her dad, and you're going to love this, her sheepdog, Mona.
Oh, yeah.
And other kids kind of make fun of her. So they believe, so, these kids make fun of her because they're like, you guys are crazy talking about some mongoose Jeff in your walls. Or they believe it and they're terrified. Like, you have a mongoose named Jeff living in your walls. But word is getting around about Jeff. Tabloids and media print about it. I mean, to this day, people are still making songs about it. Anyway, and like the family, they don't want money. They're not advertising this. They're not trying to get famous on this. Soon, though, Harry Price hears about this. And I think we have to cover him at some point. He's pretty phenomenal in the paranormal area of life. He's the
I'm
founder of
purple
the
again.
Oh my freaking gosh.
Ridiculous.
He is the founder of the National Laboratory of Psychical Research.
Okay.
He travels the world investigating supernatural occurrences. And he believes that a majority of these are fake, and he will go and find the fakes. Most of them were fakes, taking advantage of people during the whole spiritualism movement.
He debunks it.
He debunks it. He was the then day Zach Bagans. The original, the OG. Anyway, he thinks this is really just like too bizarre to believe. Bizarre.
Right.
Take a drink. It's too bizarre to believe. So he sends one of his employees, Captain Harold Dennis. Yeah, go on. You go check this out. February 26th, 1932. Okay. Dennis arrives, and the Irvings are very kind to him. They're very hospitable. James shares stories and shows him all the tunnels and holes in the wall that Jeff lives, and tells them everything from Jeff being from India and how he got here and everything about Jeff. The Irvings seem like very kind and normal people, talking about a rodent living in their walls that talks to them. Very normal.
Does Jeff make an appearance?
Well, while he's there's no evidence of Jeff.
Oh.
There's no noises, no sounds, no voices. And the Irvings explain, well, Jeff, he likes to take visits around town, and he goes on trips. He must be out and about. But he's also very hesitant to talk around strangers. So Dennis he spends all day there. He spends all day with the Irvings into the late evening, and he's really disappointed that he's not met, seen, heard anything from Jeff. And it's about midnight, and he decides to head to town to go where he was staying the night. And so he puts his coat on and he heads to the door. He says it's goodbyes. He leaves. As the door closes behind him, he hears in a very high pitched voice, "Who was that man?"
I'm thinking the chipmunks.
Dennis, and I think that's how it was. Dennis hurries back into the Irving's home, but alas, that's it. Nothing else from Jeff. The next morning, he comes bright and early, hoping something, anything would happen. And at this point, he is thinking he's a hoax. This is a total hoax. Stories are fake. He's not sure what the motive would be if this were a hoax, but he also believed it to be Vori or maybe Margaret that were doing this with their voices. Maybe he just thinks it's just fake. Something was just off, so it just seemed fake. So he goes back early the next morning, though, and again, nothing happens.
Nothing.
But he hangs out all day. Later, sometime in the afternoon, Margaret heads to town. She needs to do some grocery shopping, and so it's just Vori, the daughter, James, and Dennis sitting around in the house. I mean, how boring. Around 5:30, they're enjoying some tea, and a needle comes hurling out of the wood paneling and hits the teapot. Dennis is shocked. Then Margaret comes home from her visit to town, and they're telling her, "Oh, he threw a needle. He threw a needle. He threw a needle." And she's like, "That's it? That's all he did? We have this man coming to see that he's here, and that's all that Jeff did?" And she gets really, really mad. She starts yelling, and she goes upstairs and starts yelling at the wall, yelling at Jeff.
Oh, no.
Vori and James follow her. The three are up there yelling, trying to convince Jeff to make himself known. And Dennis hears a high-pitched voice arguing back. He hears the voice shouting back. He does not want to talk to a non-believer. Dennis starts to dart upstairs to catch if he can catch a glimpse. Hear better something, Jeff. And on the way up the stairs, he trips.
Oh, no.
George, there's George. We haven't talked about George tripping people on stairs in a while. He was tripped.
George.
He didn't hurt himself. Nothing happened, but he scared Jeff off. And he left with no evidence for Harry Price. But Dennis cannot stop thinking about Jeff. In the end of May in 1935, so a couple years later, he heads back to the Isle of Man. He meets James in town. The two have lunch. They walk along the beach together. Sounds like a little date. And at some point during their little afternoon together, Dennis picks a daisy and he attaches it to his little lapel. And they're, just the two men just having a nice little outing. And then they head to the house. Margaret meets them before they arrive in the home, and she tells them, "Jeff followed you all day. And he told me everything you did." And she told him all the details of their day, down to what they ate for lunch, to the daisy pinned to Dennis's lapel.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Dennis is impressed. But he goes and sits in that house for hours and hours and hours, still waiting for Jeff to appear. James, Margaret, and Dennis have some tea together. Oh my gosh, so much tea. And Vori goes about her day doing chores around the house. And at some point in their hours and hours of Dennis sitting there, Jeff the Mongoose speaks. And from the walls, Dennis hears, quote, +4's Oxford bags, unquote. This is enough to convince him, and he tells Harry Price that Jeff is the real deal. Not long after he gets home, he gets some fur sent to him from the Irvings to prove that Jeff is real. He sends it to some pathologists at the London Zoo. Now, the person there, whoever tested it, I don't know how they tested it, but they said there's no way this is from a mongoose. They believed it was taken from a long-haired dog.
Not Molly.
Mona, nice try.
Mona. Mona. Molly, Mona.
Harry Price, one obsessed with the bizarre like we are, makes the trip to the Isle of Man. With him, he brings a good friend of his, Richard Lambert. He's a historian. He was also a writer. He was a broadcaster at the time. So he likes to cover the stories that Harry Price goes and investigates.
Mm-hmm.
They get to the Isle of Man. Jeff, of course, refuses to show up. Now, remember, Jeff goes on little vacations, shall I call them. He doesn't just stay around the farmhouse. I mean, now he's intelligent and speaking and like telling his story. He wants to get out to the world, I'm
Of
sure.
course.
James tells Price that Jeff would hang on the doors of buses and cars, and that's how he would travel. He would just stow away and he would go away. It's all just so confusing. If this was a hoax, again, what's the motive here? Because it's not like the family is reaching out for publicity or anything.
Right.
And again, you have Mona. Oh, I didn't mean to say Mona. Vori, whose only friend is Mona, her dog, and her parents. So she's still struggling. At this point in her life, the only thing that Mona, well, I keep saying Mona. The only thing that Vori really did besides hang out with her mom and dad was go rabbit hunting with Mona.
Okay.
Rabbits. Interesting.
Oh,
Ringing
because
any
the
bells?
rabbits were left at the doorstep.
Price is a little suspicious of James, and he thinks Vori knows the answers to what's going on. He invites her on a tour of the Isle of Man. He's like, let's go see the Isle of Man. Show me around your island. And James invites himself with him. So then Price is like, I would love Vori to come to London. She needs to get out to London. Of course, I will have some female companion to travel with her. I would love her to come to London with us. And James refuses his daughter to go. So at this point, and I mean, this case was deemed unsolvable by Harry Price. A publicist, Nora Nichols, came to research and write about Jeff. She, like Price, found that many locals believed in Jeff. They were scared of him, and they wouldn't go anywhere near the house, and they would even try to avoid the family.
Well, they were isolated, though.
Yeah, but they just, well, because this did become spooky, you did have some kids that would try to go out there, or people that were curious. And a lot of people did say that Vori could throw her voice, that they'd witnessed it a couple times. That she could be like a ventriloquist of sorts. And some people apparently witnessed this. And there were some kids that, well, like I said, would go out there. And there were some teenage girls that when they came and snuck at the house and they're looking in the window, they saw Margaret and Vori like hitting pans together, like weirdly, almost like they were practicing something. And when the women saw the girls outside, they got like scared. But they're also isolated, and there's people outside their window looking at their house.
There's faces looking in on them, right?
Why they're hitting pans and pots, I have no idea.
Make sure there's still work.
Sporadically in 1938, Jeff says he's going to leave and he's never going to return. James, and so if this is real paranormal, what? I mean, sporadically, apparently he left. Vori, Margaret, and James took their secret to their grave of whatever this was. James died first. He again, people thought that James was the one keeping the women quiet. So they thought maybe the women would speak once James died. They never spoke up about anything. And, they would reach out to Vori to give stories or tell us what's going on. And she really just wanted to live a normal life. She had a horrible adolescence, if you think about it. Again, if this thing is real or not, she was really shunned or made fun of regardless. So she really wanted to live a normal life. and she was kind of sick of being harassed by some rodent living in her walls. Finally, in 1970, she told her story publicly in an interview with Fate magazine, where she told them, quote, "Yes, there was a little animal who talked and did all those other things. He said he was a mongoose, and he said we should call him Jeff. But I do wish he had left us alone," unquote. Her story has remained the same all these years. It's been the same. Nothing's changed. Right. And the family did eventually sell their home, and the man that moved in captured some long rodent and killed it and took a picture of it, and it was like all over the newspapers everywhere that he had killed and captured Jeff. And Vori was like, that's not Jeff. So yeah, a lot of people, and I know I mentioned isolated a lot. So one of two things: either they're isolated and they've gone cuckoo because they're so isolated, or the women hated being isolated. And James was never going to leave his farm. That's how he made his living. And so they were trying to scare James out of the farm so that they could not be so isolated and get out. They felt stuck. But even after James's death,
they still stayed there.
The women still did for a while, and they still continued their story. So I don't know.
So you don't have an end to this?
That's it. So if you're hearing scraping sounds in your walls, it could be Jeff, and that is G-E-F. That's how he spelled it.
G-E-F. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff.
The talking mongoose.
That was a really weird story.
It was a little bizarre. It's a true story. There's a ton of newspaper articles on this thing. It was like a really big deal back then.
Oh my gosh.
Who was Jeff? Other people in town even saw it under their beds. They'd see beady little eyes, and then they'd see this yellow thing run out of their houses.
Oh my gosh, that is so strange.
Mm-hmm. I thought so. I thought it was very fitting for a bizarre episode.
Yes, definitely. All right.
Oh, okay. Well, another bizarre episode in the books. I cannot believe we're on episode 140.
I know, but it's a fun ride.
So far, so good, Mom. If you want to see resources and pictures from this episode, they will be on our website, killerhangoverpodcast.com. Follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, all of the things for social media.
All the things.
Join us on Patreon, please, if you want more stories like Mom mentioned, or we hop on there and do our morning show thing when we get together.
Next time we get together, we need to do the Ghost Adventures thing.
Yeah, I think we do owe that as well as our morning show. Kind of catch up on current true crime stuff and just chat and talk about different random things. It's been a lot of fun. Patrons, we have a lot of fun. But yeah, Mom's going to put all her pictures from her trip on our website, so go check those out. And maybe you guys can see something. Maybe she missed it. If you're watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, comment hello, follow us.
Don't comment on the purple, though, because I have no idea what that is.
Do all of the YouTube-y things. If you are listening on any podcast platform, hi, hello, welcome. Please leave us a review and a comment. We'd really like to hear from you guys as well. This was a good episode, Mom.
That was fun. It was fun, definitely, especially with Jeff.
Oh, Jeff.
Oh, Jeff.
About you.
Oh, all right.
Cheers,
well, you don't
Mama.
have anything left, but I do.
No,
so
I don't. Cheers, Mama.
Cheers. I love you, kid.